Um, 15 years is a long time to be without releasing music. Was there any point in those 15 years where you thought you wouldn't be here today?
Oh, absolutely. I had, problems with my voice for several years since my last tour, which was Up from the Up album. That was my last studio album. And I got Lyme's disease on that tour, right at the very end of that tour. And I started losing my voice. And I didn't associate the two together. Lyme's disease is not typically something that attacks your voice. It normally attacks your major organs. I mean, it's a terrible disease. It's debilitating and can be fatal. So I'm not. I feel unfortunate as a vocalist that it attacked my vocal cords. But I feel grateful that it didn't attack my liver or, my heart or something like that. So you have to see the positive side of everything. But it's been a long road back to recovery and back to rehabilitating my voice. And so I was, now, this is why I'm calling the album That's so much a part of, there's a lot of reasons why the album is called Now, but who I am now is definitely not who I was in many ways 15 years ago. And vocally is one of those things. I've changed so much. I'm still myself, but I've changed. And that is a lyric on my album, in fact. But I had to go through a lot of rehabilitation to be able to record this album and to be able to get on stage and sing. So it's quite a miracle that I've come this far with all of it. But so the main reason why I've been away so long as far as having a full-on recording career is because of my voice.
And when music has given you so much, to have not the music taken away, to voice, the tool, the instrument that you use taken away, it's such a cruel thing to happen.
I mean, the irony of it is crazy, and I don't know what, I'm not really still sure what the lesson was in that, but I have learned a lot through recovering my voice, and I'm so appreciative and grateful. This album for me is a gift. To listen back to myself, I've never enjoyed listening to myself sing as much ever in my life as I do now. In fact, I never listen to my own music normally, but I do enjoy listening to this record just for the sheer pleasure of, dwelling in this satisfaction that I was able to make the album. It's been great. I mean, even making my demos was great. Sitting in front of my microphone and my Pro Tools with my guitar and just writing these songs and listening to my voice was a pleasure. Because for a long, long time, it was probably a good 7 years before I even started to begin to get this, to the bottom of what was going on with my voice and how to rehabilitate it. So, and I couldn't bear to listen to myself sing. It was an intermittent problem, which was also very, a big mystery, because sometimes it would be there for a minute and then it would be gone again, and I just didn't understand the inconsistency and why one minute I'd have control and the next minute I wouldn't. So I was able to do a few vocal projects in that time during these last 15 years, but it had to be a very controlled environment. And they turned out really well, capturing that a good moment in my voice, but there's no way that I could have, restarted up my career again with that inconsistency in my voice. Opening up my mouth and not knowing what sound was going to come out.
It's terrifying.
It was terrifying. I grieved all of those years, really believing that I'd lost my ability to have a singing career.
You mentioned the word control in a different context, but it's interesting, the opening track of the album, Swinging with My Eyes Closed, is that kind of freedom and emancipation, but also that fear of perhaps not having, in the shape of Mark Lang, the person who guided those 3 albums, but actually still realising that you can do it without any of that. It feels such a joyous opening to an album.
Well, it's a good point that you brought up. I mean, Swinging with My Eyes Closed is all about diving into the unknown, fighting for that freedom to express yourself, having to overcome the fear of the unknown and not knowing what to expect and what's around the next corner. And, just diving into this project was the scariest part of the whole process. Just making the decision to get started without my longtime co-partner, deciding to write the album on my own, taking that challenge on of, having no co-writer influencing me or even giving me objectivity, and perspective. It was a big risk, and also putting my voice to the test. I didn't really know how it was all going to turn out. So Swinging with My Eyes Closed, I've been doing that my whole life, by the way, anyway, swinging with my eyes closed.
You had to.
I had to do that my whole life. But making this album was definitely one of those experiences.
For you, at those dark moments, there must have been points where you thought you probably couldn't cry anymore. You couldn't be more upset. So what lifted you out of those moments?
I mean, there's a few things. I'm very lucky to have a beautiful son. I have an amazing husband, and I have music. And music has always been my go-to shoulder that doesn't judge, and it's a place I can go to express without inhibition and vent. And just being creative, period, is an expressive, creative expression it's an outlet. It's a place to release. And so in that sense, it's very therapeutic. It's my, I guess songwriting, you could say, is my psychotherapy, and it really works. So nothing better than to be a songwriter when you need somewhere to go and, pour your heart out.
Everything that's gone on in your private life is well documented, and you've spoke about it a lot. I was wondering, when reading about it, whether you think success is an enemy of love, that the time that you have to pour into being who you were to the world takes away from being able to love in a much smaller and more intimate sense.
Well, I've always been better at intimacy than I have at being in a magnified environment. I get a little bit lost in that environment, to be honest. And in fact, when I'm on stage, as big as the environment has become for me, being with thousands of people while I'm singing, I get in the mindset that I'm not the one in the spotlight, that I am there to be entertained by everyone else. And I flip it around, and I don't feel on the spot at all. I feel very much a part of the environment, like I'm at a party and we're all there together. And this is the only way I feel comfortable doing it. Not feeling like I'm in the spotlight. And I'm very at home doing that. I need to psychologically feel that I'm in an intimate setting, no matter how big the environment, basically, is what I'm saying. And, you know, I love having nesting time at home. I love time alone with my husband. I love time home, you know, time alone with my family and to cook. And the small things in life really matter. So I have to take that same feeling with me on the stage. Otherwise, I would be overwhelmed.
Have you forgiven?
Yes, I have forgiven. Yes. You have to move on. And you have to, you just have to move on and carry on, you know.
How long did that take?
A long time. It took a long time. There's a lot of things in my life that I've had to forgive, which we all do, you know, by the time you get to your 50s, you've inevitably experienced things that, you know, that will hold you down or back unless you forgive and let go. Forgetting is impossible, I think, in a lot of cases, but forgiving is necessary. You just have to unload and lighten your load and not let things drag you down. And not forgiving drags you down, for sure.
The tracks on the album that are very positive and overcoming the dark periods of your life, are they a destination you're aiming towards? Are they a mantra you need to repeat in order to get you to that destination, or are they where you are at now?
Well, the other part of the reason why I've named the album Now is because I'm through that transition. And I'm at the end of the transition, and who I am now is someone who has arrived on the other side. And for a long time, I was quite in the dark and in a phase where I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then all of a sudden, I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I gravitated there. And the transition was longer than I expected, but now I'm on the other side of it. And it's the album was written during the transition period. So there's the darkest moments. There are moments when you can sense the optimism, and then there's complete celebration of getting through it and surviving. So the album is really the transition phase from dark to light, you know, sad to happy, lost to found. Life's About to Get Good is a perfect example, and how that of explaining and encapsulating in 3 minutes the process of that transition phase.
The one track I play on repeat and repeat is Poor Me.
Okay, and that's the darkest moment.
Right, okay, okay.
And I had to include that
right,
song.
Okay.
And that's why I included that song, and it's one of my favorite songs on the album, Poor Me. It's very infectious in a haunting way, and it really is that moment of, you know, self-pity, and I believe in indulging in the moment that you're in. And if I'm sad, I want to feel sad, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And that's why I put that album on there. I wanted that extreme, which was where I was and have been in various times in my life, and it had to be included in this this dark to light process. And Poor Me is that song. Definitely, you know, an unapologetic emotion and sentiment and experience that had to be shared on this album.
Pour me another.
And fun, clever
yes.
twist to the lyric, which I always enjoy.
There has, of course, been many women who have been through similar experiences to you. What track do you think on this album would best serve the woman in that moment who has been hurt by two people close to her?
Yeah, I think I'm All Right is that song. I'm All Right is the champion song for anyone that needs to feel the optimism and the spirit of survival, either whether they're still in this painful scenario, or whether they've come out on the other side. So it's a survivor's anthem for the brokenhearted and betrayed. So I would say that I'm All Right is that song.
With everything you've achieved, with all the success and the wealth, growing up in poverty as you did, do you ever quite escape the ghosts of that?
Never. I will never forget where I came from and what I experienced growing up poor, in a very dysfunctional family, violent home, and the racial conflict I grew up in. Just the whole thing was difficult, and I would never want to relive it again, but I cherish the experience of growing up that way, in the sense that I don't meet a lot of other people who have, and I feel that I have invaluable experience because of it. But at the same time, it was terrible a lot of times, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't regret it, because it's been invaluable, especially becoming famous in the end. I really feel more anchored down, and especially because where I come from and what I come from stays with me.
And lastly, if your husband Frederick and I were to go out for a drink, what do you think would be the number one complaint he would have about you?
The number one complaint that he would have about me? I guess it depends who he's talking to. But his number one complaint about me is that there's
How long
things.
is this list, Shania?
I know it is. It's terrible, because he always tells me all the time the same things. No, but he would probably say that I'm too forgiving. And then the other thing is that he would probably say that I don't appreciate myself enough. He's a great husband, but I do need to hear these things a lot. Because yes, I do have both those problems.
It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure.